black rooster's blood is sacred, according to my grandma's tales. Knowledge and understanding of what's happening are the only things that promise a catch. And that catch is more than just a catch. It's a dream embodied in noble fish who would rather choose death than still water, fighting until their last breath. Perhaps that's why, in gratitude, anglers often release them back into their native element, return home tired, having walked dozens of kilometers, but with fate as clear as crystal that they are still in that mystery water, in those dark pools where even sun dare not to look. I became interested in fly fishing very early, when I was 12 years old. My friend and I, while meditating on our fishing relics, which we love to do on long winter evenings, found romantic-looking pictures in magazines. Flies tied from various feathers and thread, bright fly lines, swift rivers, and the noble fish living in them immediately captivated our hearts. Only our reality at the time had no connection to it. One must consider the broader context of the time and place. The country I live in had only recently freed itself from the clutches of the Soviet Union. Talking about the possibility of getting information about fly fishing or buying equipment and materials was a huge challenge, especially for children. No one in my family or environment fished with a fly rod. In fact, there were very few such people in Lithuania. The internet was still an unheard word for our curious ears, and information about fly fishing in the Lithuanian press was as rare as the new moon. Every few months, one or two abstract articles would appear, which merely kept the belief alive that it exists. We found much more information in Russian Rybolov magazines, which every self-respecting fisherman had. My friends and my parents were such people. True, they didn't fish with the fly rod, so we had to decipher unfamiliar terms ourselves. Nevertheless, Russian magazines were a good lifesaver. I was so curious and interested that I quickly learned to read Russian quite decently, and there was a fair amount of good information. Not only romantic articles about fly fishing, but also technical details, diagrams, fly tying examples, and instructions. No matter how good those instructions were, the material and tools for fly tying, as well as for fly fishing itself, did not increase. They simply weren't available. We started modifying old spinning rods, used thick apron rope instead of fly line, which we greased with pork fat before each fishing trip, used simple vices that locksmith had, only slightly smaller, and when it came to feathers, that's a whole different story, to which we'll return. The greatest ideological inspiration and religious foundation for us was an essay published in a local fishing magazine, The Sacrifice of the Black Rooster. It tells the story of a fisherman, a fly fisherman, who arrived early in the morning at his favorite river to soothe his soul. Walking through the village, he unexpectedly became a witness of kind of a sacred and at the same time gruesome event. An old man, living in a solitary house, carrying a black rooster, stopped at a chopping block with an axe in the middle of his yard. He stroked the bird to calm it down and laid it on the block. Thumbing the feathers against the grain, he opened the rooster's neck, raised the axe, and with a slight hesitation, severed the head from the body as if it's separating day from night. Purple blood flowed over the stump, and rich pool formed on the grass. Only then did the old man feel a gaze. Turning around, he saw a stranger. They greeted each other. The fisherman asked what the old man intended to do with the bird's head and asked if he could take it. The old man was surprised, as he thought the head was only good for cats to gnaw on. The fisherman wrapped the head in a newspaper and put it in his bag. For the fisherman, the morning was like a pulpit for a priest. Without much talk, the men went their separate ways. The old man busied himself with the household, and the fisherman wandered along the riverbank. There, wading through the swift stream, he elegantly cast his rod, swinging a hypnotic bright fly line in the air. Turn after turn, he moved upstream, searching for his dream. Perhaps it was a fish, or perhaps a state of being. In any case, he looked calm and happy. Happy because he was in nature, observing it, trying to understand the processes taking place and become a part of them. Sitting down to rest and eat, the man took out his tying equipment and carefully extracted a black as coal feather from the head of the rooster sacrificed that morning. He tied a fly from it. Later, when he returned to the river, he managed to catch a good fish. He lured this fish with the very same fly tied from the black rooster's feather. Returning home after fishing, he visited the old man. He wanted to thank him and tell what happens when a black rooster is sacrificed in the morning. The old man invited him to stay, and the two of them spent a long evening talking about fishing, people, values, about the relationship between a man and nature. It's easy to guess where our winding path led after reading such inspiring literature. At first, we started visiting the zoo very often, which seemed like a real good opportunity to get suitable feathers for fly tying.
Nebaisu?
Of course, we did it illegally, as the entrance was paid and not cheap. For resourceful children, this was not an obstacle, at least not bigger than the zoo fence, which we easily climbed, driven by a sacred mission. Once on the other side of the fence, after visiting several interesting aviaries with birds imported to fly fishermen, we ended up in the exotic bird room. There, the cleaner gave us multicolored feathers swept from the cages of exotic birds. They were shitty feathers, both literally and figuratively. Literally, because they were lying on the floor and were simply soiled by the same birds. Figuratively, as we understood later, because most of them were useless, just bright, pretty feathers. A good dry fly required few and, I would say, very basic elements. We had all of them except of the most important one, a brown rooster neck feather. Now it's easy to get it by visiting any online fly fishing store, but not back then. After much though, we ended up at the Alexotos market, where various animals and livestock could be purchased on weekends. We were not at all surprised to find a brown rooster there, exactly the kind we needed. The seller tied the bird's legs and carefully put it in a bag. She had no idea where we are taking it, nor did the bird. We both grew up in Hrushchevka, a Soviet 5-story apartment building. We hadn't experienced rural life and didn't know what it meant to cut off a bird's head, but we really needed those brown feathers. We needed them very much. Much more than we were afraid to do it. At least that's what we thought until we finally found ourselves in the basement of an apartment building, face to face with the rooster. Taking the bird out of the bag, its eyes were very big, but I think ours were even bigger. To say that everything went smoothly and effortlessly would be a big lie. Fear, excitement, and panic were flying around the basement. The rooster was also flying, splattering the grey concrete walls with blood in front of two frightened kids who just wanted to fish. I won't go into much detail, but eventually we succeeded. With a bundle of bloody but very good rooster feathers, we could finally realize our fantasies and tie the most popular dry flies we had found at the time. And we did it quite well. Much water has flowed, much time has passed. There have been many interesting stories, which I may tell you someday. But the first challenges and memorable events that started our journey through the world of fly fishing, they were a good test. When I think about it now, we really wanted to fly fish.